De Blas.
Hey.
Good morning, Mayor.
De Blas, the mayor's back on the phone this morning. How are you today?
I'm happy to be alive.
I mean, like the rest of us, having a blessed morning. On your way to the gym, maybe.
I've done the gym. I'm feeling good about life.
What'd you work out on today? What, are you like a all chest, no legs kind of guy?
You know, I resent that editorial comment.
Are you like a cardio guy? You run some miles?
Do you take spin classes?
I do not take spin classes. Cardio, weight machines, stretching.
Cardio, weight machine, stretching. I like it. Well, de Blasio, it's a crucial time. We are watching the Trump thing, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it a campaign because it kind of hurts my feelings and embarrasses me that this is a presidential campaign that we're watching at this level. I mean, we've seen craziness at the primary level, but to get this far and have this kind of disgustingness be a part of our elections is, I don't know about you, but for me, it's kind of upsetting.
It's very upsetting, Ebro, and I think this is a situation where people need to take back their country by getting involved in voting and sending a resounding message that this is not what we expect from a presidential campaign.
Right. You know, in what ways in your political kind of career and knowledge, where are we now with the Republican Party and the two-party system? Now that we are literally watching the Republican Party implode and they're scrambling to try to pull it back together.
I think the Republican Party is going through a fundamental change. I think a lot of moderate Republicans won't be able to continue in the party after this. I think that's been happening for a long time, the Tea Party and everything else.
And do they become independents and Tea Party and these other things?
No, I think some of them become independents, not Tea Party, because they're more moderate. I
Right.
think some become Democrats. But meanwhile, the Democratic Party is clearly moving leftward.
Right.
Clearly a progressive impulse came out in the primaries that I think will continue to grow. So in a way, I think it isolates the Tea Party as, you know, it's not going away, but it kind of points out this country is not going where the Tea Party is going.
And when you talk about that progressive, that's something that Bernie Sanders led the charge of, and it kind of repositioned Hillary's whole platform.
Yeah, I think Hillary had some very strong elements and progressive elements in her platform initially, but I think Bernie's presence certainly strengthened it, and they came together in terms of the Democratic platform. It's the most progressive platform in decades, and it goes right at income inequality, it goes right at structural racism, and a whole host of issues. So I'm very proud as a Democrat that our party is, you know, very openly, clearly, unabashedly progressive, and I think that will deepen and continue. But meanwhile, I think the Republican Party is in a fundamental identity crisis.
Yeah, it's sad watching this Donald Trump thing. This is bad.
Yeah, but it is the chickens coming home to roost, too, if I
Yeah.
can borrow from Malcolm, because the fact is that they're reaping what they sowed. They created the Tea Party. They aided and abetted it. Even the mainstream Republicans aided and abetted the growth of the Tea Party, and now it's coming back to bite them.
Wow. It's crazy time. Cannot hire somebody that is this type of person to be the highest executive in our land and represent us to the rest of the world and be the face of what our future is going to be.
And
That's right. And people need to feel a sense of ownership. Look, there's so many things we see, in the national discourse that discourage us. I think the answer is fight back, take control of the situation, use that vote for a change. By the way, in this state, we have a lot more change we're going to have to achieve to make it easier for people to vote. We have to start early voting in this state. 37 other states have it. New York State does not.
Why? What's the process? Is that just us voting that we want early voting, or how does that? What will be the steps to make sure that happens?
It has to be done by the legislature and the governor in Albany, and it's long overdue. 37 states, including a lot of red states, have early voting, which means for the average voter, it is much easier. It's much more convenient. You vote. You have weeks in which to vote, and you find the time and place that works for you. We have same-day registration. Another example, lots of states have it. You walk in on Election Day, you register right then. You do not have to register like we do right now, weeks in advance. These are fundamental reforms if we're going to create a healthy democracy. New York State is actually way, way behind the rest of the nation. And
well, how about
How
about this? Not to cut you off, Mayor. For those of us that live here in New York City, obviously New York City doesn't represent the entire state, right? But it is a large, large piece of it. Our state is embarrassing on a number of levels. whether it's the raise the age issue that we talk about a lot
That's
on this
right.
show, the fact that us in North Carolina still put teenagers, 16, 17-year-olds in jail with adults. And now we're hearing about this really red states. There are states, Republican back-asswards, Confederate states that are more progressive in getting people access to vote than we are. That's embarrassing also.
It's embarrassing, and it's a good analogy to put the two together, Ebro, because, as New Yorkers, we love to think of ourselves in the progressive vanguard. But let's look under the hood a little more. If we can't raise the age in what's supposed to be a blue progressive state, something's wrong with this picture, and therefore a lot of young people are being treated the wrong way. If we can't do early voting and same-day registration, we're disenfranchising people. I think we should call it what it is. We're disenfranchising potentially millions of people who would vote if the system was easier to work with.
Wow. I mean, there's a lot of issues that I know today's not the day, Mayor, for us to talk about because I know what's going on in Queens. They're actually I don't know if you guys are paying attention to this. I don't know if the mayor even has a position or what's going on. But in Maspeth over there in Queens, right? Yeah. They're protesting a homeless shelter. They took a hotel. They're going to turn it into a homeless shelter. Now, I understand working class town, working class area. They don't want a bunch of people that they might think might be hanging out all day, right? With nothing to do, no jobs, just hanging out in their neighborhood. I get that because that attracts a lot of things. Drugs, that attracts alcohol, that attracts a lot of things. People around kids that they don't want around. But what they're doing is putting people with jobs.
Exactly. That's what I was going to point out.
People that go to work
yes.
every day that are having a tough time trying to find a place to live. And they're protesting that. They don't want that in their neighborhood. Now, that's their right. But at what point, and we talked about this earlier, if you want to be understood, you got to try being understanding, right? These people are trying to work their way back into society, work their way back into having a place to live. If we're going to address our homeless issue, that's kind of like an all hands on deck sort of scenario where we all got to work together. And there's going to be neighborhoods that are like, look, we have to put a homeless. We have a building. There's a facility that can accommodate. We need to figure out a way as a greater community to provide opportunity for people.
That's right.
If we're gonna continue to fix the problems that we have. So Mayor, I don't even know where you are on this issue.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Ebro. This community, Maspeth, has 250 people from that community district who are in our shelter system. But when we say we want to put one facility to help people get back on their feet, to put a roof over their head in that district, they protest it.
And these are homeless people whose last known address was in this community.
Correct. 250 people, more than the size of what we were talking about in terms of a shelter facility. Every community has to be part of the solution. And I understand why people get concerned. But rather than attacking the very people who are suffering. And you're exactly right. People who are working, more and more the folks in shelter are working people or people who recently had jobs and are trying to get another one. What's happening nowadays is homelessness is an economic phenomenon. It's because the rent is too high and wages are too low.
That's right.
And we need to support people who are trying to get back on their feet. Now, we've been able to get tens of thousands of people out of shelter and into permanent housing. But when the bottom drops out for a family, we have to catch them when they fall. We have to give them a place to live on the way to getting them back on their feet. And every New Yorker should think that's part of making the city better.
Now, Mayor, with all the buildings that everyone is seeing going up this year in our city, whether it's in Long Island City, whether it's in Manhattan, whether it's in the South Bronx, whether it's, even in Staten Island, Brooklyn, there's tons of buildings going up, high rises. And I know you've been on the forefront fighting anyone that wants to come and put up one of these high rises in our city. Not only are we going to get tax dollars, but we're also going to have more affordable housing, right? For middle and low income. How is that fight going? Where are we at today? And will we have that in these new buildings going up?
Because the city council did the right thing, we now have a law in this city that says whenever a developer applies to build something and they need city approval, like they want to build higher or different than what's currently allowed, in exchange for that approval, they must create affordable housing. If they refuse to create affordable housing, they are not allowed to build.
And is there is there a number? Like, do you know today with these new buildings going up, a number of units that will be available for affordable housing?
It's a percentage. It's 25% or 30%, depending on the development and the specifics.
Wow, that's a large percent.
So think about that. Whereas previously they could have gone in, and this was long history in this town where developers got their way all the time, gone in, built something bigger, gotten all the approvals, gotten everything they want, and we didn't get anything back as the people. Now, by law, either give us affordable housing or you're not allowed to build. And that was a huge step forward. But the next thing we need is help from the state. The state used to give away tax credits. They used to give away basically, give it a tax break to these huge developers. For example, that building on 57th Street, that huge, tall, slender building you can see all across the skyline, luxury condos, under state law, they got a tax break. We ended that. We said we're not going to accept that anymore. We need a new law from Albany that actually says we're going to create affordable housing any time that people get a tax break to develop a building. And Albany has not followed through on that yet, and we need that so we can build more affordable housing.
Got it. All right. Well, this is a good update. Appreciate the information. If you don't get out and join a part of the process, you know what we say here, Ebro in the Morning, Laura Stiles, Rosenberg. Stop bitching then. Stop complaining if you don't want to be a part of the process.
And help us. It's easy. It's quick. And you get to actually decide the fate of your nation.
Mayor de Blasio, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks,
always
Mayor.
a good time, man.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day down there at City Hall. I know you're going through some heated stuff, so check back in with us when you can talk about it.
I look forward to it.
All right, man.
Take care, guys.
Take care.